Photography can be an overwhelming topic. However, in this video, I want to share with you 5 rules, or let's just say best practices, that have really helped me grow as a photographer, and I am 100% sure that they will help you too. Also, this video is sponsored by MPB, but more on them later on. We all fall into the trap of amassing a ton of gear, having 50 tabs with different tutorials open, trying to memorize how to shoot in full manual, whilst also reciting the entire user guide of a camera that we've just bought yesterday. So the first rule is really to keep things simple and practice a minimal approach to every aspect of your photography. From a gear perspective, of course, this depends on your specific needs. However, for most people, it simply means having one decent body, one general zoom lens, and maybe 1 or 2 primes with the focal length that you prefer. And the same can be said for accessories. Don't go out and buy every single accessory under the sun, every filter, every tripod, every ball head and monitor calibration, just all of this crap you don't need when you start. Keep it simple. Keep accessories to a spare battery, a spare memory card, and a small sling or little backpack to put everything in. When it comes to editing, again, keep it simple. A small iPad, a basic Lightroom subscription, or even another app if you prefer, is all you really need to get started. Because if you're not careful, you'll be upgrading to the full Photoshop, having various luminosity masks, plugins, and the whole thing just becomes a mess very quickly. And when it comes to taking photos, again, approach it with a simple mindset. So rather than trying to shoot everything all at once and getting overwhelmed, maybe the first 3 months, all you focus on is good light. The subject's irrelevant. And then the following 3 months, so that's when you might start looking into interesting subjects. Then the 3 months after that, you might start looking more into compositions. Maybe for a particular month, all you want to do is shoot with things in the foreground. And this slow and steady approach to photography will build your skills up over the long term. However, it means you will not be overwhelmed and you will get to properly enjoy each aspect, practice it, until you get 100% comfortable with it. And we can even extend this to learning about photography. Perhaps for the first year, all you're doing is learning the technical side of your camera, how to expose, how shutter speed works. Maybe the second year, you're learning about lighting, you're learning about compositions. The third year, that's when you start looking into editing. That's how I learned photography. I didn't just start doing everything all at once. Initially, I mastered the technical sides, then I moved on to actually taking photos, then I learned editing, and then I realized I had to go back to scratch because I've learned lighting and I've learned proper composition, etc. That's how it goes. But if you try and do everything at once, yeah, you'll just end up confused. Now, the regular viewers of this channel will be rolling their eyes at this point because I bang on about enjoying the process so much. However, honestly, if you want longevity within this craft, you have to learn to enjoy the process. Now, what that means to you is obviously very individual. To me, for example, I enjoy every single aspect of photography. I enjoy setting up the camera, packing up my bag the day before, jumping on the train, going into London, walking around, pretending to be a tourist, stopping for a coffee, fishing for subjects if I find a good scene. I honestly could come back home empty-handed and I would have had just as much fun as I would have done if I came back with a 5-star best photo I've ever taken. Sure, having really nice images that you're proud of at the end is a bonus, but that shouldn't be the very reason that you go out, because then you're putting your happiness and you're putting your satisfaction on something that's out of your control a little bit. And if you don't get it, you're then bummed out and you hate the whole process. And over time, if that's your attitude, you will fall out of love with photography and you'll become yet another statistic of a Instagram account that stopped posting like 3 years ago because they just got bored or gave up. Photography is the art of capturing light, specifically how that light interacts with your subject and with the scene. In my opinion, lighting is the most important foundation of a good photo, because without good light, you don't have anything to build on top of that. The way I see it, you have light at the bottom, you then have your composition, you have an interesting subject, and when you have these three, you have the basis of a good photo. Of course, there's more that goes into it, but from a simplification perspective. I think that makes sense. That's how I look at it. Now, what is good light? In my opinion, good light is when there is a clear and strong source of light in the image, be it the sun, be it a bright window at night, or be it a high contrast situation when you're indoors looking out for a window, for example. And on top of that, I like to have the lighting come from either behind the subject or from the side of the subject, so 90 degrees to the subject when you're looking straight on. I generally don't like to have the light coming from behind me and flat lighting the subject. It just doesn't get the results that I like. Sometimes it does, but not very often. That's just a personal preference. That's why most of my photos have a certain look to them, and other photographers will have a completely different approach. So my suggestion here is really figure out what type of lighting you like in your images and learn how to spot that light and how to use that light to get the results that you want. At this point, I want to say a quick thank you to today's video sponsor, which is MPB. MPB is the go-to place for buying used camera gear, and buying used has many advantages. First of all, you save money that you can then spend on flights and travel or food, if that's what you like. Secondly, buying used means you're not contributing to buying new things. So instead, you're already using what's out there, and as MPB calls it, taking part in a circular economy. And finally, you can actually sell your current gear to MPB. The whole process is very easy and straightforward, and it's definitely a lot less headache than using various online auction platforms and then having to deal with people not paying you and postage. You get the idea. So for all of your buying and selling of used camera gear needs, go to MPB. They will not let you down. Your job as a photographer is to observe the world around you, process it through your own filter, through your own mind, and put it in a photograph. What do I actually mean when I say become a better observer? Well, when you're walking around the streets, be paying attention to everything around you. Don't just be looking at your phone or doing something else. Pay attention to how people move, how the traffic moves in that city. If you're in the nature, if you're doing landscape photography, pay attention how the clouds move over the mountains. Just really try to pay attention to your entire surroundings and try to figure out why things are happening in that way. There's a lot of photographers who literally know their city inside out regarding where the light is coming from and which corner will get that light at what time. So when it comes to March 23rd and you know that if you go to this particular spot at lunchtime, if the sun is out, you're getting fantastic light. Now some people might say, well, that's an obvious point because we're all photographers, we're all observing when we're walking around. But are we though? Because how often are we in our own thoughts, in our own daydreams, looking at our phone, or just generally distracted? How often do you actively walk around and scan the entire scene and ask yourself questions? Why is the light hitting that building in that way? Oh, that's a reflection from that building, so maybe if I go there and I look that way, I could get some interesting light. Why is there a person walking down that street in a hurry? Oh, there's a really good light behind me, so if their body language is looking like they might cross the road, if I actually cross the road back there and shoot that way, and if I got this right, and they would walk through that patch of light and I can get a great shot. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out, but that activity of being that aware and looking around you will definitely get you more photos than just daydreaming and hoping to just stumble across something like many of us do, including me. I'm kind of cheating this one because I'm lumping two different things in one, and that is to create depth and change perspective. Very often when we take photos, we all take them from the very same angle, like this from the viewfinder, or like this from chest height. I do it all the time. However, now and again, if you just change the perspective, you might get a very different image. Now, sure, it doesn't work all the time, and sometimes it looks worse than it is from eye view, because in many cases, things do look good from eye view. But if you're in a new location, just change the perspective a little bit and see what works and what doesn't, because that experimentation is what will ultimately lead to getting better photos. Now, as well as that, try to always create depth in your images. Now, creating depth effectively separates the layers between your background, foreground, midground, but also it puts the viewer of your photo effectively in that scene, because if there is something in the front of the lens, or if you're shooting through something, it's very similar to a person standing there and looking through that object. And it's a very easy way just to add a bit more interest to your image. So next time if you see, let's say, someone walking along the beach, rather than just pointing your camera and taking a photo, have a look around you, see, can I put the camera behind something, shoot through a railing, have something coming in and, let's say, blocking off one part of the image, and then that will create a more interesting photo. And the final thing I want to mention is try to get as much right in camera as you can. Now, I definitely don't practice what I preach with this particular point because I shoot for the edit because I know how I'm going to edit, and I generally shoot a little bit wider so I can crop in, reframe if I have to. However, in my experience, I found that my best photos, the ones that I'm the most proud of, required the least editing, required the least correction, and the least crop. By no means am I saying that getting it right in camera is some holy grail of photography, and I can definitely argue that your editing style is 50% of your overall photography style anyway. All I'm saying is try your best to get it right in camera and then use editing as a means to polish up something that's already good rather than trying to rescue something that's bad. Alright, I hope you found this video useful and you found the discussion points helpful. If you do have any opinions or feedback, please use the comment section for that. If you have anything that you would like to add to this list or you think something does not belong on this list, again, that's all the comments section is for. So one more time, thank you ever so much for watching the video. I do really appreciate your ongoing support, both here and on the new channel. And that's it. Have a good week, have a good weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.